Greetings. Welcome to the Garden and Lava Show. As far as the volcano's concerned today, there hasn't been a lot of change. It's just ongoing, which is really, that's the history here in Hawaii anyway. But these things get started and they'll go on and on and on and on. The ocean flow from Pu'u'o'o started back in the 1980s, and it really didn't stop until this began. And so having lava flows here on the island and eruptions, again, are absolutely nothing unusual. They're constant, really. And when they're not constant is when we start to worry. As long as it's going on, right now things are problems because it came up in the middle of my buddy Jim's fish pond, so that's another story. But anyhow, in regards to it, there isn't really anything new. There's been a higher discharge of SO2, sulfur dioxide, from the vents down in Leilani, fissure number 8. They say yesterday that the height of the eruptions, which had been up as high as about 250 feet, although nobody went down there with a tape measure. Now they say they're more like 150 to 180, so it's not shooting up in the air as high, but for some reason or another the amount of gas being produced seems to have doubled, and I can smell it. We smell it here in the air today. The trade winds aren't moving much. The air is very still. It's quite humid today, lots and lots of moisture in the atmosphere, and so the sulfur is moving this way on the moisture droplets. Good friend Melissa came by yesterday to pick limes and buy mint for the Hilo barkeepers, and well, they live about 5 miles closer to this than we do. They're really at a good distance though, but apparently 5 miles closer is just enough, because they've not only been measuring very acidic rainfall. Here, the most acid rainfall we've picked up was a 6, and that happened only one time. Down there at their house, they've been getting readings that are 3.5. The last one here was a 3. Now that's really getting down there. Cross under 3 and you start talking about the pH of vinegar. They're really getting a different picture where they live than what we're getting in this spot. Today things may be equaling out because, as I said, I came out and I can smell it a little bit. It's not too obnoxious, but it's there. Although smelling sulfur in the air on a volcanic island has never been anything particularly unusual for us. Every once in a while it happens. We expect it. We live on a volcano, Anyway, they had also been getting ash on the cars and on the roof, as well as Pele's hair. I've reported on that previously, but yesterday she told us that they also had Pele's tears. Pele's tears are droplets of volcanic glass. I'm at a loss as to explain, since they're, probably a good 14 to 15 miles away from that fissure, how in the heck they're picking up droplets of glass. But they did. They were on the roof, and so the stuff carried that far somehow. Now we have an economic impact, because she probably make more money selling Pele's tears on the internet than she ever will selling the mint we have here to the barkeepers. But nature gives you a lemon, you squeeze that thing. I'd be collecting all these myself. I understand there is quite a business going on in lava bombs and all sorts of stuff that's come up out of these fissures. And it's good. I just wish that and hope that the people who are selling the stuff on eBay, that they're contributing some of that money back to the folks that need it, who got wiped out by all of it. That'd be a really nice thing for them to do. And you will see my hat here. Now, to begin with, despite the fact that some people think of Bill as being a white hat sort of a guy, ordinarily my laundry won't put up with me wearing white hats, because if I touch lava dirt and then touch this hat brim, there's going to be a permanent brown stain that will never come out. And so I'm only going to be wearing this guy for videos. Ellen was on Oahu yesterday and ran across somebody who was making these hats, Puna Strong, and I believe they were selling them for about $15, and I think $5 covered the cost of making the hat. I think it was the other 10 was being donated to people down there, you know, in southeastern Riff area. Ellen's was pink, mine's white. Usually mine are black or brown. So this is a special hat, a going out to dinner hat here. I didn't hear too much about Kilauea's caldera in the park. Apparently it's a little sleepier today. There's definitely been no major news about it. Of course, the media is all plugged up full of pictures of the two guys with bad haircuts. You know, one's our president, the other one dictator from North Korea. I swear to God, anybody who has the kind of money and power these dudes have really should be able to find better barbers. You know, that's about it with the lava report today, and so I would like to move on to the garden issue. As you may notice, I've been sitting here holding on to this thing. My ankle still hurts. Oh, sometimes it takes me a while. I don't know if there are other viewers out there that ever have trouble with gout. G-O-U-T. That's the condition where we end up with excessive uric acid in our blood, and under some conditions that uric acid will crystallize, settle into the lower extremities, and it's especially the feet, the ankles, the toes are the worst place. And the crystals will embed themselves in the tissue, and then the tissue swells up and gets sore, and it's really hard to walk and move around and so on. Well, because for me, gout is not something that happens regularly. Okay, I don't get it very often, but I have had incidents of it throughout my life. It's usually associated to two things. One, that the tissue itself will have probably already been slightly injured. In this case, I think I probably strained my ankle. And so if I already have an inflammation, and then I'll do something that increases the blood uric acid level, then I end up with a gout attack. And so it's very difficult sometimes for me to tell, well, did I twist my ankle? You know, that type of thing. In this case, it was probably both. That's common. The situation for me really goes back to childhood, because the first full workup blood test that I ever had in my life showed that I had a high uric acid level in my blood. I was about 16 years old. So this has been ongoing for me for a long, long time. I really didn't start to get any reaction to that until I was in my 30s. Periodically I would start to get some attacks of gout. I know I had less trouble with it during the 15 years that I was a vegetarian, but not completely, because just going to a vegetarian diet won't solve this either. There's a lot of debate between medical professionals as far as whether diet affects this or what it is, you know. And the belief is still out there that diet has a lot to do with it, and I firmly believe that that is the case, because for me it usually takes two different factors. One, go ahead and irritate the ankle, irritate the toe, or some such thing by, you know, normal physical abuse. And two, I'll eat something, and oftentimes more than one something that's well known to affect gout. And so, you know, you can go on, for instance, to the Mayo Clinic's website. That's always a good one to find information. And they'll have a list of foods that are known, you know, I mean, organ meat, for instance, which is something I don't really eat much of, unless I have a hot dog. Sure. But, you know, that can cause it. It's asparagus, for me. Oh my goodness, anything with really high B vitamin content seems to set this off. And asparagus has a lot of folic acid in it, and so that's usually, if I consume asparagus, that will oftentimes come down with a condition. Beer is another one too. Beans. I've not really noticed that lentils or garbanzos seem to do this very much, but oh boy, I tell you, plain old white navy beans like we use for baked beans or use for navy bean soup. Oh, years ago, I just had to stop eating them. I could not eat navy beans because I'd get an attack. And heavy meat stock, you boil down, soup bones, for instance, and for me it seems the worst ones are a ham bone. If I take, have a whole ham on the bone, cut it all off, and then take the bones and boil them down to make a ham stock, and then, of course, most logical thing to do with a ham stock is make navy bean soup. And I remember the day that I boiled down a ham bone, I made white navy bean soup with carrots and such, and then turned around and I drank beer on top of it. Oh, white navy beans, ham stock, and beer, it will cripple me. Okay, and so I'm a firm believer that diet has a whole lot to do with this, and over the years I've tried to adjust it. Well, I always thought that pinto beans didn't cause this problem. That was good because I love pintos. So eating pinto beans 3 meals in a row is probably a very bad idea for me. But I think I've concluded also that old beans are way worse for some reason than nice fresh ones. I don't know what's behind all that, but these were old beans, and I have never in my life had an attack of gout like the one I'm experiencing right now. So I have had to now decide flat out, that's it. Bill does not ever eat beans again, which is all right because, and I had already decided I don't make bean soup with ham stock and any of that. If you do have gout issues, which for most of us, these things are really, it's at the genetic level. Diet affects it, a lot of the things affect it, but some people just naturally seem to have a higher uric acid level in the blood than others do. I'm one. In fact, this is interesting in a way because throughout my life, I've been a guitarist for, over half a century. And, guitarists, when they're hanging around, they'll often say, hey, try my axe out, man. It's like, oh, yeah, cool. We'll sit around, swap licks, swap guitars, and so on. And I recall that more than once, when some other guitarist went and put brand new strings on their instrument and then handed it to me to play, the acidity in my body that comes through my sweat, through my pores, is intense enough that I could usually manage to destroy some other guitarist's brand new strings in about 15 minutes of playing. It's sad, but I've been, I've made some very unhappy people over the years when they, generously offered me their guitar to play, and my sweat would corrode their new strings to such a point. I don't wear metal. I don't wear metal for a good reason. If I happen to wear jewelry, my cord is cotton, jewelry is cow horn, I just don't wear metal anywhere where it touches my skin because it corrodes. It turns green, it turns whatever color, black. And I know in the past, measuring sweat pH using litmus, Ellen's pH is neutral, which is typical. Bill's pH is more like 6.5. Quite a degree more acid than most people. So there's the basis of the problem. From there, what you eat will definitely affect it both ways. And so, as I mentioned, organ meats, rich meat stock for soup, asparagus, beans, beer, and of course, if I'm going down that list and I go, okay, I don't need the asparagus, I can live without, ham bone stock, no problem. You know, beans, well, at this point, finally in my life, now I have decided I will never eat beans again, and that's all right. It don't bother me that much. Like I said, beans are not a big deal here in Hawaii anyway. We eat more rice and fish over here than I eat beans. So it's good. I'm in the right place, and but then those are the things that affect this. The beer, there's no way. Yeah, there's no way. If I have to stop drinking beer, all the above can go away, but I still want a bottle of beer periodically. Genetically, I'm 64% German, Czechoslovakian. Can I live without beer? I don't think so. I really don't. Anyhow, but going the other way, there's other stuff that you can eat that actually helps reduce the amount of purines in the blood. I wasn't aware of this earlier. As I've gotten older, these attacks periodically are more frequent and oftentimes worse. So I've started to pay more attention to this, and I've had friends along the line. A good friend of mine down in Mexico and in the American Southwest, he's kind of dual citizenship there. He has a similar problem, and he's the one, I think, originally who talked me into using tart cherry juice. When I lived in the Midwest, we grew tart cherries. My mother had trees, at her house, and we used to pick them and process them every year. Later, when I went out on my own, I grew the trees too. The sweet cherry, like a Bing type, doesn't do well in most parts of the Midwest at all, but the tart cherry thrives over large areas of Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan. Tart cherries are not sour, for those of you who've never eaten them. They're just much, much stronger, and in fact, they are the flavor that we associate with cherry. If you take, say, a Bing cherry and try to make a milkshake or something out of it, it oftentimes tastes a lot like plums or prunes rather than cherries. But my friend convinced me that this was a good thing, and I started buying organic tart cherry juice in bottles, and realized that when I drank some of it every day, I didn't seem to have much for gout problems. After moving here to Hawaii, tart cherry juice here is a very expensive commodity. Again, talking to my friend about it, he says, oh, well, man, use Roselle in Mexico. He says this is what he would use. That's the fruiting hibiscus, Hibiscus subdifera. I have videos on YouTube done last November or so that are all about this. It's just titled Roselle. And occasionally that's called Jamaica. So the Mexicans usually refer to that hibiscus as being Jamaica, which spells Jamaica. The juice of either the tart cherry or the juice from the hibiscus fruit have some sort of chemistry in them that will help flush purine out of the blood. They're both quite delicious. It's a pleasure to have to consume them for my health. And so, living here in Hawaii, the hibiscus was the go-to. I can raise it right here in the garden. And you can use it to make a sauce similar to cranberry sauce. It works that way. Many of you may know it from Celestial Seasonings Red Zinger tea. That's the Roselle that's in Red Zinger tea. If you eat in Mexican restaurants, you probably know the drink they call Jamaica, spelled Jamaica. It's a red drink. Tastes a lot like cranberry juice. because they mix it with water and sugar. You know, there's some things in herbal medicines and diet that I think are kind of a myth. In the case of both sour cherries or hibiscus fruit, they appear to work. And in fact, just prior to this attack, I had run out of a bunch of concentrate for tart cherry that I'd been using. It's, for me here, the cheapest way to get the stuff is buy it off Amazon in the concentrate bottles and then mix it with water to create more gallons of the product. And I would consume it daily. I enjoy the beverage, and so it was easy for me to drink a glass of it every day. And I wasn't having any problem. I had been using the hibiscus, but I had run out of my crop that I had harvested last year, and so that's why I was using the tart cherry juice again. Aside from what I did eat, pinto beans, then there was what I didn't eat, which was the tart cherry juice, because I was out. It appears that that's probably why I have this sore foot here. And then yesterday, a lady came by, one of the YouTube viewers here on the island, who's recently moved here, and she dropped in to buy some fruit trees and stuff for her property. We started talking about my sore foot, because she had to take care of herself. I couldn't truck the plants around like I usually do. And we got onto the subject of gout, and well, it turned out that she's got these problems sometimes too. And now she immediately said cranberry juice. Well, again, we got these similarities. There's some sort of chemistry in these red fruits, apparently, that flush purines. I don't like cranberries, not because I have anything against the berry. When fishing in northern Wisconsin in fall, we run into cranberries and bogs and stuff, and I used to harvest them and eat them as a snack while fishing and so on. And so the wild cranberry picked from nature was an appealing thing. I enjoy it, but I don't like the politics on cranberries, because there's really only one major corporation that buys and distributes almost all of the fruit. Plus, people who talk about, oh yeah, I eat cranberries all the time. Well, only when they're loaded with sugar, because it's very difficult for most of us to eat cranberry without a lot of sugar put into it. So, and then she also brought up something that I had suspected, and that was massage. When she has these problems, her husband would then go and massage her feet and toes for her, in the attempt to try to break down the uric acid crystals that have embedded into the tissue. Literally fracturing the crystals, they tend to flush back out of the tissue better. I had thought the same thing, although I've never really read anything about it anywhere, and would massage, and I'm finding that I'm getting some reaction by massaging my feet. Now, it's excruciating, because you have to work tissue that's got these little spears stuck in it, It hurts to massage gout, but it's apparently worthwhile. And of course, the other thing that I hadn't been doing, and that was turmeric with black pepper, which is an anti-inflammatory. And I believe the whole thing started when I inflamed my foot due to excessive activity. And then, despite the turmeric being right out here in my garden, I ran out in the kitchen and, I'm not going to walk out there, dig it up, blah, blah, blah. So I let the turmeric go, I let the cherry juice go, I've been out of Roselle, and so on. And, well, bang, ate those pinto beans and it nailed me. So this morning I went back out and I dug myself some more turmeric, and decided for lunch today that I'm having red rice cooked with turmeric and black pepper, plus a few other spices and herbs in there to make it more tasty. And so here you can see what we did with that one.
Yeah, this morning I'm going to make myself some red rice with garlic, onions, peppers, and turmeric. I just went out and dug this up out of the ground in the front yard. Main reason why I'm working on eating turmeric today is I'm going to saute all of these ingredients together with black pepper. The black pepper and the turmeric will work as an anti-inflammatory because my foot is killing me. Well, here I am with my red rice cooked with turmeric and black pepper. That's good. Delicious lunch that cures. Go back to my good habits of consuming turmeric and black pepper every day. Went on to Amazon this morning, ordered myself 2 more jugs of concentrated tart cherry, having them shipped in. Otherwise, when you get down to pharmaceutical chemistry, the only pill that I know of that they will give you for gout is made from colchicine. Well, colchicine is a naturally occurring material. It's found in the autumn crocus, so it comes from a crocus. But it's a weird material to begin with because in horticulture it's referred to as a mutanogen. We will use colchicine sometimes when we're doing breeding experiments to try to induce genetic mutations. It'll break the DNA strands and so on. And that's kind of weird. And it's not the sort of a medicine that I would consider wanting to take because of that. I don't know, whether you can mutate your own genes from using it or not. But past that, about the only other things a person can do with this, pharmaceutically, is to use, anti-inflammatory drugs and or pain-killing drugs. The pain is intense and excruciating. Oh, it can really hurt. And so, unfortunately, the most common anti-inflammatories that you could use, like ibuprofen or aspirin, I can't take them. They rip my stomach up. Just can't take them at all. And so that's out of the question. That leaves me really with only one good alternative pharmaceutically, and that's the use of narcotics. So codeine, Norcotin works. Unfortunately, it's addictive. You can only use it for about 5 days before you develop a habit. It's euphoric, and so it messes with my mind. I take that stuff and basically I get high, and that kind of screws up your day, especially if I get out of bed first thing in the morning, my foot's killing me, and I take, some painkillers, and next thing you know is I'm looped. So it's not my way of living. I don't mind getting messed up, but I prefer to do it in the PM. Pauhana, man, late in the evening, sure. I'll sit around drinking rum and whatever, and whatever your favorite poison is there. They're all good. But fortunately, with this, I require it first thing in the morning. Really, this standard pharmacy, it's really not the solution for this. It's kind of, it's bad because there's a lot of Americans, there are a lot of people, period, that have problems with this. If we can control it by what we eat, what we don't eat, by massaging and so on, well, these are all good ideas, but if I was relying on the pill pushers at the pharmacy to take care of me on this, I end up with tablets of a mutanogen that will break DNA down, and then narcotics that everybody's complaining about because America seems to be strung out on pain pills. So the focus of today's garden portion of the show is on what you can grow and what you can eat and what not to eat when it comes to problems with gout. I got some great responses back when I asked a question the other day about how people felt about life after death. That's a big one, right? In this case, I'd like to take on a little bit smaller topic. Anybody out there that has problems with gout or has a relative that has problems with gout, if they know anything more than I know about it, I'd love to hear it, because I've been, I think, 4 days now hobbling around on this thing because my foot got swelled up. And so most of the good stuff I've ever picked up about treating this did not come out of my doctor's office. It came from friends of mine that said, "Oh, Bill, try this." So if anybody knows more than sour cherries and cranberry juice and Roselle about what you can eat, let's hear about it. So, aloha,
hang loose. You guys all have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching.